It's not to say that we're never going to have feelings of burnout. We're going through it right now a little bit, which is why I wanted to do this session right now, because it's very fresh for us right now. We've got some changes, a little bit of restructuring that we're going through. We've had to make some really hard decisions.
And the summer was really hot.
Yeah, the summer was really hot. Like, it's great. It's great for business, and we're very busy, but it's very stressful as well, right? Welcome to the Lasting Business Solutions Podcast, Indy's Launchpad for sustained business success, growth, and leadership. My name is Renee Lucas. I'm your host, and we are back for part 2 with Travis, my husband and co-owner of LCS Heating and Cooling. Part 2, last week we talked about business growth and gave some suggestions on how to plan for business growth. And the other part of growth and running a business in general is owners, mental health, burnout, things like that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We know a little bit about that.
Well, I missed that class in school. They didn't teach that.
They didn't teach that.
No,
You're right.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, it's all like hard knock lessons with it.
Yes.
So today we're going to be talking about 3 warning signs that you may be approaching a little bit of a burnout, or maybe need to focus on your own mental health. And so one of those things that we're going to be talking about today is losing interest in your own hobbies and having a very unhealthy work-life balance, right?
Yep.
Now, sometimes I feel like work-life balance gets a little overused sometimes, and I know that there have been times where, we kind of roll our eyes on what that is, but it's so important, right?
Yeah.
Why? Okay, Travis, sometimes I know you've been like, if I have to hear work-life balance one more time, why is that for you? Like, why does that frustrate you sometimes?
Probably because I grew up and that phrase didn't exist. So let's start there. So.
Right.
Whether it was my first job at JC Food Stores where I had to work weekends, my friends didn't. Then I went to landscaping. I worked a ton of hours. Then moved on to HVAC, and the work-life balance didn't exist. You worked, and if there was any life left over, you got to do it on the weekend maybe.
Sure.
So I think that's probably why I get a little jaded by that phrase. But it actually is a real thing. So
it is. And so, in the last segment, we talked a little bit about how, if you have growth and it's not planned for, you're working and you're working and you're working and you're working because it just snowballs, right? Yeah. Do you ever feel like you've lost your personal hobbies? Do you feel like you've lost interest in those things, or has it truly been just like, oh, I don't have time for it right now?
It's both, because if I don't ride my mountain bike in a while, it's just because we're busy. But then when I finally get on it, I'm like, why am I not doing this?
Right.
Then I'm like, then why am I not doing this?
Right.
And it's because of work. I miss it, but then I'm like, Yeah. And I don't really miss it until I understand when I get back on the bike that I truly miss it.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, it does, because yoga is kind of like that for me, right?
Yeah.
Like, I have a really strong yoga practice, but then I will have these periods of time where I'm like, man, if I just had this evening, and I'll have worked all day, but then I skip yoga, and my yoga class is at 6 p.m. I'll skip it and I'll work until I go to bed, and then I get up the next morning and I go and do the same thing and the same thing and the same thing, and then before you know it, it's been a month and I've not been to a yoga class. And
then you get mad. You start to get mad that you didn't do it. You missed the time.
I think, too, there's been times where, like, my emotions have gotten to that point where I am mad and I'm irritable and I'm moody and all of the things, but I'm not sure I've always been able to relate it to the fact that I have no personal life right now. I'm working most evenings. I'm working on the weekends. I'm working all day. We spend so much of our time as business owners investing in everybody else. All of our energy goes to everybody. So for example, if I'm at our shop during the day, I'm not getting my work done. I'm with everybody else, right? I'm helping other people with what they need assistance with. I'm in one-to-one meetings. I'm in different things. And so if you don't plan out that balance of how much of my time as an owner is for everybody else and how much of my time as an owner is for me to get this part of my work done, or to focus on the growth of the business, or the new vision or whatever that may be, that's where you lose that balance.
Well, you get resentment too.
Oh, I would completely agree. With who? Yourself? Others? What do you think?
I mean, probably I'm going to come to you and going to have resentment. It's not even your fault. Because there's no one else to vent to, so therefore I just bring it home.
Yeah. And that's why you have to be really careful with that when you're working with your spouse, right? That's actually one of the other warning signs, is that you're nitpicking a lot, right?
And it starts with work.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with personal. It's work, but then it bleeds into personal, and then you argue, and then at the end of the day, you wake up in the morning and be like, why the hell were we arguing?
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you it goes back to work, and it's because of burnout. And mental health is legit when it comes to business owners.
It is. And I think it's taken you a long time to really accept that or think that that's a real thing.
Well, I used to think that if I took time off, I didn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm. And you said to me once that you felt like a failure.
Yeah. And I would think, what of our team thinking? I don't care if I work 90 hours. If I didn't work a day, then am I cheating everybody?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's something that's very real with business owners too, is there's something, you don't want to be, how many times, like, I know you've talked about having jobs before we had our business in which the owner was either not present or, there was somebody, I can't remember who you were talking to, but it was a company you were talking to, and they were like, man, I've always had like a manager or boss that like, they dress differently than us, or they'll show up and like they get to wear like cargo shorts and a t-shirt, and it's like, you're in the company uniform that everybody else is in. And, seeing things like that, like you want to be a certain type of owner, you want to be a certain type of manager, and it requires a lot of energy to be able to do that, right? And so how do you balance that, like being present and not being like kind of that like owner that nobody knows sort of thing, without being so involved that it takes away any sort of like semblance of a personal life for yourself?
It's truly a struggle, because it's like if I take time off, that it's not fair, because they're working. Somebody's at the company's working, and then you do become resentful. You do go down a path that it's not healthy.
Right.
And we've lived it for years of, you want to keep everybody happy at the company. You want everybody on your team to be happy. But if I'm gone, what are they thinking?
And I think we've had this conversation a lot. And I think that as owners of a business, you have to get to a point to where you just accept that there are going to be some people or even some positions in your company, they're never going to really truly understand what you as an owner do, right?
Yeah.
Because they see like, somebody that's been with us for 10 years, say, right? 10 years ago, you were in the field every single day, right? You were always in the field. So when you transition to what you are doing right now, right, which is really, like, for example, one of the things that is a big focus for you is building out our training room, building out the vans, doing some build outs in the warehouse, doing some ride-alongs with training with technicians, doing some one-to-one training with managers. For the most part, people don't see that, right? And so I think as owners, we just have to accept that it's okay, and I think it's unrealistic to expect everybody to know exactly what we do and when we do it and how often we do it and things like that, right?
But that's hard to get over, because I go back to I feel like it's not fair that I'm not doing what they're doing. And I've always told, there's so many times people ask, how'd our trip go? I'm like, because I didn't want them to know we had fun on our time off. And
I think, that's something that as an owner, I think that you really have to work through that, because how would you feel if one of your team members came back from vacation and you were like, hey, how was your trip? And they were like, it was okay.
I'd feel bad.
Yeah, I'd feel terrible. I'd be like, why didn't you have a great time? What happened? Like, what were you thinking about? Like, what was going on? But I think it's really unfair that you set less of an expectation for yourself.
But it's guilt. It's actually guilt that you're gone. But you have to be gone eventually, because you're gonna resent things because of burnout.
Okay, so I heard something. This was years ago. I heard something on the radio, and it was somebody talking, and they were saying business owners need to get away at a minimum of once a quarter. And when I first heard that, I was like, yeah, and I was totally on board, because I was like, no, we're taking a vacation once a quarter, right? I understand now, and I understood fairly quickly as we were starting our business owner and things like that. you have to step away and you have to get away. If we're home, we work, right? Like I'll sit on the couch with the dogs and I'll have my laptop pulled up and I'll be working. I don't truly step away. Now, being gone doesn't have to mean it's a week's vacation every time. It could be a day trip. We took a day trip for our anniversary on a Sunday and had an amazing time, right?
Yeah.
Felt like we were really away. We felt refreshed when we came back. But you have to really plan and be diligent to do those things. Otherwise, as you were saying, your time just gets sucked up. And then before you know it, a week's gone, a month is gone, a year is gone, 2 years are gone. And you start to build that resentment and kind of those negative emotions, right?
Yeah. So... yeah, I mean, it comes down to if burnout happens, it's almost too late.
That's it. But how do you recognize it? So, I mean, that's what you're talking about. Some of those.
It's hard.
It is hard, but I think you have to have an awareness as an owner. You have to learn to have an awareness to when you're approaching that point. So, Travis, I think that's a really good point that you made. Is by the time you're feeling like that, it's kind of too late, right? You've experienced burnout. I pulled up a couple of statistics here that I thought were really interesting. There was a study that found 77% of small business owners reported feeling burned out at some point. 53% of those experienced burnout more than once a month. Do you think that that's realistic? Do you think that's
definitely realistic, especially in a seasonal business where you're slow, you don't have enough work, and then you're busy and you have too much work. This is not a 9 to 5 what we do.
No.
So therefore, I once a month, I bet it's 2 or 3 times a month.
Well, and what's interesting here is sleep and stress was one of the other points of the study. 60% of entrepreneurs say they don't get enough sleep due to stress. Financial stress was the number one cited reason.
Oh, so you're saying when we're slow and we got to worry about paying the bills, and then when the work is coming in, it's still stressful.
Yeah, because then you burn everybody out. Everybody's tired and they're exhausted. Yeah.
And then I start worrying about that. I worry about not enough work. I worry about too much work. And yes. Yeah.
So let's talk about burnout, because I know with us specifically, like one of the signs that we are starting to experience burnout, whether it's one of us or both of us, is we start nitpicking at each other a little bit, right? Yeah. And I started talking about that just a few minutes ago, but we've been married 24 years. We obviously know each other extremely well. And I can pick out a couple of things with you, for example, like getting into a really negative mindset tends to be where you go when I know you're starting to feel really burnt out, very stressed, not getting enough sleep, all of those things that they talked about in the study. One other thing I'll say in the study that I thought was really interesting is some of the most common mental health conditions with entrepreneurs are depression and anxiety.
Huh.
And so I've actually asked you before I'm like, do you think you're depressed?
Well, I went to see the counselor about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I sat there and questioned myself, am I depressed?
Yeah, because there's all these feelings that you have, and it's like you can't, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel sometimes when you get to that point of burnout, right? So going back to if you find that you're starting to really nitpick with your spouse, I mean, there's things like you and I rarely argue about anything, right, of significance, but that nitpicking things. And to me, I think you pick up on it with like moodiness, right? Like it's like, oh my God, like what Renee am I coming home to today? I've heard you say that a couple times recently, actually, right?
I have a scanner at the door to find out which one it is.
I know. It's to go up there. Nope, I'm going to leave.
Yep, that's not good. I better go to the next room.
Right. And one of the things that I noticed for you is like excessive time on your phone. Yeah. You'll be scanning through especially news articles and they're all negative. It's like all of the like bad things that have happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh, can you stop for a second with the negativity?
If I'm on the Jeep stuff, I get in trouble too.
Well, I know. I know. Yeah, if you're spending a lot of money on Jeep parts, that also might be a sign.
But that study is actually, it's not the eye-opening, but it is.
Yeah. It shows that it's a very real problem, right? Yeah. And we've all been through it. One of the last things I'll point out in the study is that loneliness was something that was pointed out in the study, is that entrepreneurs feel lonely. And we talked about, we felt like we were on a lone island before we met our best practice groups, the industry associations, met other contractors across the country. You're not on a lone island. Absolutely. Every other entrepreneur, does not matter what your business is, does not matter the size, does not matter how much revenue you do, how many employees you have, you go through this.
And when you're at that burnout stage, you better have someone besides your significant other or your spouse that you can reach out to.
Yeah.
We're a part of a couple groups that I can reach out to the guys, and I guarantee you, if I'm going through what I'm going through at this time of year, there's 2 or 3 people in that group that are in the same boat.
That are probably going through it as well. Actually, this morning, one of our team members, we've got our monthly call tomorrow, and he sent out a message and said, hey guys, I think it's been a really crazy season for all of us. I think we need to like come together on like what we've learned and what we feel like we failed on, what our challenges have been. And so that's a clue right there. He's going through
if I haven't heard from them in a while, I know they're going through something.
Oh, that's another really good sign too. Yeah. If somebody drops off the map.
If you isolate yourself, they're probably going through something. So then I reach out to them.
Yeah.
And say what's going on.
Yeah.
So I know I'll let my text. If I'm having a bad week, bad month, I'm super busy, I'm anxious, I'm getting close to burnout, I may not answer any text.
I saw 230 like unread text messages on your phone the other day, and I was like, oh my God. I had to do some deep breathing and meditation for that.
That's why I'm not on Facebook or anything, because I just wouldn't respond.
I know. And so I think knowing yourself too and having an awareness, when one of the things that helps me is counseling and a therapist. Yeah. And so I've actually started some counseling and some therapy again recently. Mm-hmm. And that's something that it's a person who's neutral, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're always going to take my side, mm-hmm. right? And that's amazing. And I want that. But there's also like, I need somebody to hold me accountable and to really, listen from a neutral standpoint to say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Where's this feeling really coming from? Is that the root cause? And so for me, that's something that helps me get through burnout or when I feel like my mental health isn't as sharp as it should be. Yeah. Right. One of the things a few years ago when I started with her is understanding the type of person you are. Right. So for me, I energize best alone. I refuel best alone. I like to read a book. I like to walk my dogs. I like to be by myself. You tend to be more social, right? So you'll like meet a buddy over like glass of bourbon or something mm-hmm. like that, talk about your day. You'll jump on with the group of guys that you were talking about and kind of work it out. You'll go fishing with your buddy. You'll do something like that to kind of refuel. So I think that's important for people to understand who they are and how you best refuel, mm-hmm. right? Yep. Is there anything that you feel like you've learned about yourself over the years as you've worked through burnout and like, how do you, let me ask you this, as you get down that like negative mm-hmm. rabbit hole, how do you pull yourself out of that?
Well, my first thing is when I go into the shop, making sure that I still do it to this day and I know I'm guilty of it, is coming in probably looking like I'm having a bad day. Yeah. So the first thing is knowing that I've got to change that mindset when I go in, even though I know it's going to be a bad week, bad month. And when I say bad, probably busy. Yeah. So I catch myself knowing if I show my face what I think I look like mm-hmm. and the team sees it, it's not good. So I try to catch myself before I go in. Still working on that.
Sure, absolutely. Having smile, calm, like you, mm-hmm. we talk a lot about something in addition is you're very ADHD. And so we talk about, you're like the Tasmanian devil. You show up and you like swirl around everywhere and then you're just gone. And everybody's like, oh my God, what just happened, right? And we've talked about like, you tend to create chaos when you walk in. It's unintentional, right? It's nothing bad. But that's one of those things is having that awareness and saying, okay, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna try mm-hmm. to make my face go up instead of down. Like I'm going to do those things. That's the first step, is that awareness and how you're doing it. And, there's a study.
Well, and that study that you had pulled up, ADHD was on there. And
it was part of anxiety,
that's
depression.
A very legit thing to get over. Yeah. And
we probably need to have a whole session on like ADHD.
I've always been this way. I've been an anxious person. I've been an anxious person my whole life. Yeah. I run 100 miles an hour and then you can have crash and then the burnout because you're exhausted.
Yeah. I think that's that mentality to get out of too, is just because this is the way it's always been doesn't mean that it's the way it has to be, right? And so, I think when we talk about self-care, because I think self-care is a very mm-hmm. big, important part of this. I've talked a little bit about my health issues along the way, and I've had doctors that have really talked to me about stress levels and how that plays into my overall health. And so you are very good at making sure that I'm doing the things that I need to for self-care, but then you neglect yourself sometimes too. So I think as owners, you have to remember that, like, even as working with your spouse, we're both investing in everybody else, and our energy goes here. Well, your energy then is still going here to me, which then still leaves you with nothing, right? And so there's nothing to feel guilty about with self-care. The example I always use, when you're on an airplane and if the oxygen mask drops down, who do you put it on first?
Of course, yourself.
Yourself, yes, because if you run out of oxygen and you die, you can't help anybody else, right? So, Travis, now that we have an awareness wrapped around of what burnout looks like, what kind of signs we might start to see, let's talk about what we do to counteract that, right? Okay. So self-care is a very general word that we hear a lot. And, I've been focused on that a lot because of all of my health issues, right? But self-care can be very intentional. But if it's not intentional, it can actually be very harmful as well, right? So one of the ways that I see you try to, like, check out sometimes is just to scroll on your phone, right? And that's really not super healthy, right? What are some things, like something that's maybe one thing that's a self-care item that you are intentional about doing to help you kind of counteract that burnout feeling?
Trying to make it intentional is definitely mountain biking. Making sure I make time for myself to be able to check out. And that's one of the ways that I can, because if I'm on the bike, I'm not going to pick the phone up.
No, and you have to be focused so you don't, like, hit a tree.
Yeah. So there's very few things that I have in life that I'm intentional with that I can check out.
Yeah.
And I know, and once again, is that check out in the evening? Is that check out in the middle of the day? We have an obligation that we're still running a company.
Absolutely.
But when do we get to physically check out, to shut it down, to say I need some self-care, some true self-care of I've got to stop?
Well, and I think that's a really good point, too, that as business owners, you know your business better than anybody else, right? And sometimes that self-care time is going to be in the evening. Yeah. Sometimes it's going to be on a weekend, but sometimes it might be right in the middle of the day. I know a business owner who he is very focused on his business, but when he gets really, really stressed, sometimes he will take 2 hours and he'll go to a movie theater and he'll watch a movie, and then he'll come back and he's like himself again, right?
And the world's not going to end if you are gone for 2 hours.
No.
And I think that's part of most business owners is if they've got to be engaged 8, 10, 12 hours a day, they can't miss a beat. And I think that's the misconception,
right?
That if it's going to slip.
Well, and I think and to say, like, let me give the movie theater example. You can't be going to the movies every day, right?
No.
You can't go to movies every day at 2 p.m.
There's not enough good movies out there.
No, there's not. But I think the point is that okay when you are in those points of, like, you're pulling your hair out and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to reset? Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
To be intentional with it and to know that it's for the good of your health.
Yes, absolutely. I've actually seen you even schedule in, like, alarms or put into your calendar that, like, I'm going mountain biking at this time, and say 20 years ago, you would just go mountain biking whenever you wanted to go mountain biking. It's not really that simple anymore with our schedules. And so it's something that you have to schedule in, and that's okay.
But you have to get it scheduled in. You have to have a release.
Be disciplined to do that. Yeah. Yep. I think, one of the things for me is, like, some time boundaries that I've created recently is around my sleep. And so I always say, I'm somebody, I really need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. You can get by on, like, 6 hours of sleep and you're fine. I can't. I know how I feel. And there's all those things. Like, think of yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, all of these different parts of you, right? And so physically, emotionally, all of those things, mentally, I need 8 to 10 hours of sleep. And so I've been really intentional. I set a thing on my phone to where my phone goes dark at 9:30 at night. Just to make sure that, like, hey, that's my thing. I'm going to bed. We took the TV out of our bedroom. Like, we did some of those things to really focus on sleep for both of us.
And I've turned my ringer off, and I used to fear that.
Oh, that was a big deal because you might miss something, right?
Yeah. And that has helped a lot because I can watch my sleep score.
Yeah.
So, and it's true. It is getting sleep now is a legit thing for me too.
Right.
And I've taken all the distractions out.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's being very intentional with self-care, right? So it doesn't mean it's just self-care is not just a bunch of vacations. It's not binge watching something for 12 hours on Netflix. Like that's not healthy, and that might make you feel good right now, but in the end,
it's not going to last.
It's not going to change anything for you. So you need to think about those things, and a lot of times it comes around lifestyle, it comes around sleep, it comes around physical activity, it comes around things like therapy or counseling, it comes around time off, like true time off, family time, being present with your kids and not being on the phone the whole time, not scrolling mindlessly through, you know, negative news feeds or whatever. So when you get really focused on what's going to make a difference in your mental health, right? And in those periods of burnout, they shrink and they get less and less because we're focusing more on the positive. We're focusing on a lot of things that'll make you more healthy. It's going to change things for you. It's not to say that we're never going to have feelings of burnout. We're going through it right now a little bit, which is why I wanted to do this session right now, because it's very fresh for us right now. We've got some changes, a little bit of restructuring that we're going through. We've had to make some really hard decisions.
And the summer was really hot.
Yeah, the summer was really hot. Like, it's great. It's great for business, and we're very busy, but it's very stressful as well, right? So how do we continue to balance that?
There is no balance. You're either busy or you're slow.
Yeah, and both are stressful.
Both are stressful.
Yeah.
So you have to be engaged in how can I have actual self-care that moves the needle.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so very important. So we hope that you've been able to take some of these things away and implement into your life to make a difference physically, emotionally, mentally. As business owners, statistics show that we want to be in those smaller percentages rather than those big percentages of anxiety and depression. Thank you for joining us again today on Lasting Business Solutions podcast. Travis, thank you for being on here today, and we hope you have some tips to take away.